Okay, so for those of you who don't know, our website is a great resource, cpcrn.org. If you need information about the network, I suggest going there. There's a lot of great resources available. And we're actually going to spend a little bit of time at the full meeting today sharing some of that because we know that it's a very voluminous website. There's a lot of great information on there. We want to be sure that everybody knows about how to find information. Okay, so we can go ahead to the next slide. So this morning, I will be providing a quick overview of the network, and then Erin is going to talk about our communications plan and the strategy that we use to disseminate information about the network. And then Becky will talk about ways that folks can get engaged, primarily through work groups and interest groups. And then Jingle will share more about our progress reporting systems and how we support progress reporting back to our federal funding partners at the CDC. Next slide, please. So to get started, we can go ahead and advance one more. We have a vision and mission statement that have remained largely the same over the past few years in this cycle. Our vision is to reduce the burden of cancer in the United States and to eliminate cancer health disparities. Our mission statement, the way that we achieve our vision is to accelerate the adoption and implementation of evidence-based strategies focused on cancer prevention and control in community settings to enhance large-scale efforts to reach medically underserved populations and reduce cancer burden, to deepen our understanding of predictable processes and mechanisms through which cancer outcomes are realized, and then finally, to develop the dissemination and implementation workforce in cancer prevention and control. And you'll hear more about our Scholars training program this morning. Many of you have been involved in the Scholars program as mentors or as participants. And this is a really great mechanism through which we are focused on advancing the workforce. Next slide, please. So we are 20 years old. For those who may not have realized, we celebrated our 20th birthday last year, and that was a really exciting landmark for the network. This network started with the CDC support and the NCI support back in 2002, and then the UNC team became involved with the coordinating center work in 2004. So we've had consistent and sustained funding from the CDC over this whole period of time. And I think what has really been so successful in the network is that consistent and sustained support has really allowed this network to flourish and to grow from an initial membership of less than 100 to now over 600 members of the CPCRN across the country and now actually across the world. So this is really exciting. And one of the things we did to celebrate our 20th anniversary last year was to work on a supplement together. And that was published in Cancer Causes and Control just this past year. Officially, I think it was December that the full supplement was published, right, Becky? So that was really terrific, and it helped to highlight the work that's happening, the diversity of work that's happening throughout CPCRN. Okay, next slide. So this is a picture from last year's annual meeting in person. It was a hybrid meeting. We had a lot of folks participating online as well, but these are all the folks who were able to join us in person in Atlanta. We are the largest and the oldest thematic research network that's funded through the Prevention Research Center program at the CDC. Our members conduct community-based research focused on cancer prevention and control within their centers, the collaborating centers, and then also outside the centers, we have a growing and really robust number of affiliate members who are participating in network activities. And the goal, of course, is to extend our research knowledge base for evidence-informed strategies to reduce the burden of cancer. The network, as you'll see, has very broad geographic reach, and that reach is really increasing over time and getting even more diverse. And the goal of the whole network, and I think the CDC's vision of this, is that together we can accomplish more than any individual member or any individual center could do on their own. And so that's really the motivation for bringing all these diverse groups together and trying to encourage collaboration, which I think we've been really quite successful in being able to do. Next slide, please. So this is the timeline of the centers that have participated in the network for each funding cycle. And we are currently getting ready to prepare renewal applications for another cycle of CPCRN, hopefully starting in 2024. The special interest project request for applications came out before the holiday break. And so CPCRN is one of the special interest projects that will continue for the next 5 years. And so many of you, including us on the call, are working to prepare those renewal applications. And you can see in this slide just the many institutions that have been part of this network over time. This list is those that were funded through the Collaborating Centers Special Interest Project program at CDC. But I will note that although the membership of Collaborating Centers has changed a little bit with each funding cycle, we've seen really strong retention of member investigators through the network, even in the absence of funding for Collaborating Centers in some cases. And so this is a network, a family, if you will, that continues to grow. And once you're in the family, you know, you're always in the family. That's the mentality that we try to bring to this, that we try to be as inclusive as we possibly can, regardless of what happens with each funding cycle. Next slide, please. So our current funded Collaborating Centers are shown here on the map in the navy color. So we have 8 funded centers currently. And our active membership is about a little under 300 actively, but we have, as I said earlier, over 600 people who are part of our listserv and who are still connected to the network. We have sites at the University of Washington, Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, South Carolina, North Carolina, New York University and CUNY, and Emory. And you can also see from the stars, the diversity of affiliate members who are concentrated in all kinds of regions around the country, and then where our scholars and our scholar alumni are located. And we even have some international participation there. Next slide, please. So in terms of our organizational structure, our federal agency partners include representatives from CDC and NCI who are here with us this morning, as well as the coordinating center here at the University of North Carolina. Our collaborating centers, each of the collaborating centers have a PI or multiple PIs, as well as co-investigators and a project director. And then we have our affiliate members. These are individual folks who are participating in the network, so not institutions, but individual affiliates. And then the scholars and the scholar alumni. And our work is completed through cross-center collaborative activities that are organized into work groups and interest groups. You can see the full list of them here. And then we have a governing structure through our steering committee. We have 3 co-chairs currently. This is a rotating role among our PIs through the collaborating centers. And then, of course, we participate actively as the coordinating center, and the steering committee also has representatives from each collaborating center PI group, and then the work group leaders, and of course, the CDC and NCI representatives. The steering committee is really the decision-making body for all the work that we do here in the network. Next slide, please. So some common definitions. As I said earlier, collaborating centers are those that are funded by the CDC to participate in the network. Our federal agency partners include our CDC funders, as well as collaborators from NCI. Affiliates are individuals who are not from a funded collaborating center currently, and we approve those through an affiliate network structure in the steering committee. I think I already described the scholars and scholar alumni, and these are folks who participated in that scholars training program. Work groups are groups of members from 2 or more centers who collaborate on specific tasks and projects, and a shared work group charter is developed within those groups and then is approved by the steering committee to really formalize the work groups activities. Interest groups, on the other hand, are groups of CPCRN members who might have an interest or an affinity around a common topic, but who don't necessarily have common defined goals or tasks yet. So these folks may be interested in developing into a work group, or they may just be a group that's interested in sharing ideas, best practices, inviting speakers, that kind of thing. We support both interest groups and work groups through the network, and we recognize that the level of activity and the kinds of products that are coming out of each of these can be different, and they can evolve over time. And then I've already described the steering committee. So next slide. So these are our PIs in the network. We have a couple on the call representing all 8 of our sites, and our current steering committee co-chairs, you can see here at the bottom, are Rachel Hershey from UNC, David Garcia from Arizona, who's on the call, and Swan Adams from the University of South Carolina. And we are in the 5th year of this cycle. So we'll be wrapping up our work for this cycle this year. And then, as I said earlier, preparing our renewal application for next cycle. Next slide, please. These are our project directors from each of the centers. These are the folks that make the magic happen. They are the glue of the network, and they are the workhorses in many ways of the network, and they are absolutely essential to the success of the network. So if you don't know these folks, you absolutely should. They are the ones who coordinate the activities of each of the work groups and interest groups. And they also frequently are coordinating the core projects that each of the collaborating centers are doing on their own. So typically the way that these CPCRN SIPs work is that each collaborating center prepares a core project that they're working on internally. And that's usually 40 to 50% of their time and effort and energy within the collaborating center. And then 50 to 60% of their time is spent on collaborative activities within the larger network. And so that's where the work groups and interest groups activities are. And that is a sort of requirement of being part of the network, is that we ask centers to contribute at least 51% of their time, effort, energy, and resources towards cross-center collaborative activities. Next slide, please. So this is our wonderful group of federal agency partners. And I saw Stephanie earlier on the call, and I think Sue also joined. And we're really excited to introduce to the group Mike Underwood today. He'll be joining us for the larger meeting, who's the new chief of the Epidemiology and Applied Research Branch. So they are our wonderful CDC colleagues who've been partnering with us. And then from the NCI, we have David Chambers and Cindy Benson, and you'll hear from them as well in the main meeting in just a little bit. Next slide, please. This is our coordinating center team. And as I said, we've had some new folks join our team in the last year, and we're really excited to have them as part of the group. And so you'll hear from each of them later. Yeah, I think we can go ahead to the next slide. So we wanted to provide just a little bit more information about what the coordinating center does for anybody who's new to the network or would like to know more about our role and what we can provide. So we facilitate the function of the work groups and organize the steering committee meetings. We also develop and implement our network-wide strategic plan. We work very closely with the steering committee and the co-chairs to really ensure that all the activities are in alignment with our mission and vision. We focus on multi-site data collection initiatives and assist work groups and interest group with data collection. We plan all of these meetings, the virtual winter meeting, and then the hybrid in-person network meeting that happens in May every year. We maintain our website and are constantly developing new content on the website and disseminating network products through other mechanisms as well, including our newsletter, which comes out quarterly, and also information through social media sites. We maintain and update the CPCRN-wide policies and procedures, which if you haven't seen that, that's on the website, and that's been a great resource for other collaborative groups as well. We coordinate all the reporting and evaluation for the network. We do provide funding support on a limited basis to work groups and interest groups. And so these are for things like transcription fee support, incentives, statistical support, communication. We can provide software purchase and publication fees. We have a process through which members can request access to these funds, and it's on a first come, first serve need basis. And then we also have individual professional development and travel awards that we also make available to junior faculty, trainees, community partners, affiliates. We really try to prioritize both of these funding resources to those individuals from centers that may not be part of collaborating centers, because we recognize that collaborating centers have CDC funding to support their activities. And so we really try to reserve these funds for individuals who don't have that added benefit of additional programmatic support. And both of these opportunities are available on the website. We have very short applications for requesting access to these. And then we coordinate the CPCRN affiliate process as well. So I provide all this just to let folks know the Coordinating Center is a resource for all of you. If you have questions or need information about anything that's network related, don't hesitate to come to us. We really are here to serve you. Next slide, please. I won't go through this in detail other than to say that it exists and a lot of thought and effort went into developing our strategic plan and updating our strategic plan, which was most recently updated in May of 2022. So if you haven't taken a look at this, I encourage you to take a look at the 4 goals that we have through the network and the ways in which we are accomplishing those goals and evaluating those goals against our performance indication plans. And this really, I think, is a nice roadmap for how the network functions. And most recently, it was expanded to ensure that it included the equity principles that we're really focused on and developing through the equity work group process. Next slide, please. So very quickly, just to show you the impact of this network, since the Coordinating Center started tracking activities and products of the network, we've seen almost $800 million in funds secured from network members. We've had over 2,200 publications from network members that are network related, over 2,200 presentations that have been delivered, and over 100 trainings that have been provided and delivered. And those are only in the past 6 years, those trainings, when we started tracking this activity. So this has been a very prolific and productive network, and we're still analyzing our data from last year to report on last year's numbers. Next slide, please. So I want to just wrap up before I hand it over to my team to talk about, what makes CPCRN function, what makes us special. We went through a process last year as part of the supplement that we were preparing for cancer causes and control, to look at the data, to really go back and look at all of our progress reporting data, to analyze the reports and the narrative information that had been provided from the centers. And then we conducted interviews with folks who were current members of the network or who'd been past members involved in the network across all levels, federal agency partners, member centers, affiliates, scholars. We talked to a lot of different people, and then we coded in typical researcher fashion. We transcribed and coded all of those data. And, we really were able to identify several themes that make CPCRN unique, and I think that contribute to the success of CPCRN. First and foremost, we have a very multidisciplinary group that contributes to this work. We have an incredibly collaborative philosophy. We're very open and inclusive and accepting. We try to be as broad as we possibly can in terms of the disciplines that are represented, the geographic reach of the network, and the perspectives that we bring in. And so I think that has created an inviting landscape and an inviting kind of group that people want to be a part of. We, as I said earlier, have had supportive funding from CDC for over 20 years at this point, and that has really been critical to ensuring the success of this network as it has moved forward and grown over time. We have robust structures and policies in place that have been developed with input from all of our network members. This has been a very democratic and collaborative process to decide how we want this network to function. It's provided an opportunity for professional and leadership development. One of the things we commonly heard in these interviews is that people grew up in this network professionally, and that they found friends and collaborators and professional opportunities that they might not have otherwise had because of this network, and that's really special. We've always been community oriented. The vast majority of the work that's happening has community connectivity, either through community and clinical linkages, or through community engagement with CBOs, or through engagement with state-based officials. We have just an incredible number of connections with community and practice-based frontline providers, and that's been really exceptional. And then finally, we've been very adaptable over time and have been flexible and responsive, I think, to the needs of our members. And we've always tried to be attentive to best practices and things that can be changed as we go. And we're constantly in self-evaluation mode and thinking about how to improve. If you want to read more about this analysis, we've provided the linkage here to the resource, and you can take a look at this article that we lovingly refer to as the special sauce paper. Okay, I think that is it for me, and I am going to turn it over now to, I believe, Erin. Next slide, please. Oh, wait, I forgot one more thing. Yeah, so the ways to get involved in the network are to join our cross-center activities. If you are part of a collaborating center, if you're not yet affiliate and you'd like to be, or you know somebody, a community partner or an investigator who would be a strong potential affiliate, there's a process for that. And then, of course, the Scholars Program, which has, I think, been the star of this last funding round, is one of the new initiatives that has really brought a lot of fresh perspectives and exciting new ideas to the network. Okay, now, Erin, it's your turn. And these are just some data on the Scholars Program, which we can continue on.
Thanks, Stephanie. Hi, everybody. My name is Erin Laurie-Zehr, she, her. I'm Research Project Coordinator at UNC Lineberger, and I'm also the Communications Specialist for the Coordinating Center team. I'm just going to give you a really brief overview of the CPCRN Communications Plan. Next slide. So our general goal is to promote broader awareness of and engagement with CPCRN through dissemination of research related to cancer prevention and control and D&I science, with the general aim of enhancing the reputation of the network as a national leader in these fields. And some of the different channels we have, scientific publications and presentations. Stephanie has mentioned the CPCRN website. We're on social media on X, as well as YouTube and LinkedIn. There is a quarterly CPCRN newsletter, which I create and send out. And there's also a CPCRN listserv that Becky mans and sends out kind of job information, different conference information, and things like that. The YouTube channel in particular has a small library of webinars, trainings, and different recordings of previous network meetings, including the different winter meetings like the one we're currently in. And I also just wanted to point out the resources page, the link at the bottom of this slide, is a great synthesis of all of our different social channels, different collaborative workshops and projects, past presentations as well, and previous progress reports, so you can get a better idea about CPCRN in general. Next slide. Here are the three main avenues that we use to either share information or you can log on and read different information. I've mentioned the newsletter. The next one actually comes out in February, so keep an eye out on that from me. If you're not on that listserv, you can email me at the email link there, Erin_Laurie, and just let me know and I can add you to the listserv. You can also access old editions of this newsletter on the website under our news tab. So you can see here that we have collected them all for you, and you can go back and look at old editions. I've also talked about the listserv. Becky will send that out. If you have information that you want to send out through the listserv, you can email Becky at that email address below. And then we are on X, we are on LinkedIn and YouTube. You can tag us in posts at CPCRN Cancer. I think that is our tag on X and also on social media, on YouTube in particular. And I think that is it from me. Next slide.
All right. I'm Becky Lee, and I'm the project director for the Coordinating Center. And you've heard a lot now about the structure of the network, and we want to share more with you now about how you can become involved with work group and interest group activities. So next slide, please. So on this slide, you can see a list of all of the current cross-center activities. The dark blue squares indicate work groups. So we have work groups in survivorship, rural cancer, health equity, CPCRN scholars, health behaviors, modeling EBI impact, multiple cancer screening, and organizational theory for implementation science. And as Stephanie mentioned earlier, these are groups that are collaborating on specific tasks and projects around a common theme, and they have a charter that has been approved by the steering committee. Then in light blue, you can see the interest groups. So we have interest groups in equitable implementation of lung cancer screening, organizational readiness, farm CPC, LGBTQ+, and scaling what works. So these groups are members share an affinity for a topic, and they come together to discuss ideas for research and funding opportunities, but they're slightly less structured. And as Stephanie said, they can evolve into work groups, but they don't necessarily have to. But the last three on there, I just wanted to note that have green letters. Those three work groups are sunsetting. And so they are wrapping up their activities and not really looking for new members at this time. But all the other groups are certainly open to new members. Each work group has member volunteers who serve as co-chairs, as well as a project director who supports the work group. Next slide, please. So there are three interest groups that are relatively new that I particularly wanted to highlight because there's a lot of enthusiasm and interest in this work right now, and we would love for you all to get involved if it's something that you're interested in. So the first one is scaling what works. And you can see here a description of the objective for this work group. It's to provide technical assistance to the CDC-funded National Comprehensive Cancer Control Programs. And it's focused on scale up of 3 successful pilot projects to additional programs. These projects include Project ECHO in rural communities, addressing risk factors for adult cancers during childhood, and increasing the number of women with ovarian cancer who are treated by gynecologic oncologists. And then the next one, again, is pretty new and very open to new members, is the LGBTQ interest group. And their purpose is to bring together CPCRN members who are interested in addressing the inequities faced by LGBTQ+ populations in cancer prevention and control. And then finally, the Farm CPC interest group. They're exploring the expansion of the Farm Fit model, which is a pharmacy-based model, to new cancer prevention and control services beyond fit kits, including HPV vaccination and home testing, tobacco cessation counseling, and lung cancer screening decision-making. And they have a first product that they're working on now. It's a scoping review of cancer prevention and control services in pharmacies. Next slide, please. So this is the rest of the slides here show the objectives for all the work groups in CPCRN. And I won't read through all of them, but you will have access to these slides after the meeting. And I just want to highlight that, because it's year 5, many of these work groups are working on products and publications right now, but there are also many of them working on new initiatives that could continue into the next funding cycle. So it's a great time to get involved with these groups as well. All right, next slide, please. Actually, we can skip the next 2, I think. Okay, so this is, again, just the groups that are sunsetting. And so finally, I want to mention, okay, sorry, this slide first. So yeah, if you can go back one, please. Thank you. Yeah, okay, forward one. Okay, so if you are interested in getting involved in any of these sound exciting to you, the first step is to reach out to the project directors for each work group, and they're listed here on this page. And so the project directors can tell you about when these groups are meeting, and just join a meeting and see what the work group is about. Attending a meeting doesn't commit you to anything. We really just want you to sort of learn about the project and see if it is something that you want to participate in. And if it is something that you want to participate in, then I really highly encourage you to just jump in and get involved with the work, because all of these work groups and interest groups would love to have you. And so the next slide, I think, will tell you some of the ways in each work group that you can get involved. Yeah. So for each work group, there are many, many ways to get involved. Once you have a chance to sort of see what the project's about, you can get involved with IRB applications, with research design, recruitment, analysis, grant proposals, trainings, anything that you're interested in. We can find a way to get you involved. So again, all of these work groups would love for you to get involved. Reach out to me if you have questions, or to the project directors, and we would love to help get you connected to any groups you're interested in. And I think with that, I will pass it to Jingle to talk about progress reporting.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jingle Xu. I am a PhD student at the University of North Carolina. My own research is focused on health behaviors, cancer survivors, and their partners or caregivers. I joined CPCRN as a graduate research assistant in fall 2023. I mainly serve as the evaluation specialist for the coordinating center, as well as the scaling what works project, which Becky just mentioned, and you will hear more about later today. Next slide. I'm providing a brief overview of our most current progress report 2021 to 2022. As well as some general information about our reporting system. So every year we provide this progress report to our CDC funders to demonstrate the collective impact of the CPCRN network. We also disseminate the executive summary, which is a brief overview of the full report, through our communication channels. The most recent full report, which presented the science impact of CPCRN from 2021 to 2022, was completed before the holiday season and would be shared with everyone soon. Here's an example of the grant reporting in the progress report. So from 2021 to 2022, the whole network submitted a total of 40 CPCRN-related grants worth about $78.5 million, of which $49.5 million funding was received. This raised the total number of applied grants since 2004 to 1,408, worth about $1.75 billion. A total of 711 grants that are worth about $780 million have been funded since 2004. Next slide, please. The framework of this progress report is based on CDC's Science Impact Framework. This framework includes 5 domains of CDC scientific influence that define degrees of impact. Next slide, please. Yeah, and I guess we can skip this slide. Next slide, please. So this progress report is put together based on the reporting from CPCRN individual networks, work groups, and the coordinating center. The reporting is due December 15th every year. The reporting cycle is September 30th previous year to the September 29th current year grant period. So besides the classic impact indicators, such as grants, publications, presentations, and research activities, we also added the reporting of COVID-related activities and disparity reduction work actually in the current work focus of CDC for the current funding cycle in 2020. Our current reporting cycle just ended a couple of weeks ago, and I also want to mention that feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions about the reporting process. And this is the end of my session. Next slide.
All right, thank you so much, Jingle and Becky and Erin. We actually are finished a few minutes early, which was great. That's what we hoped would happen. If you don't know how to get in touch with us, you can see mine and Becky's email addresses here, as well as information about how to find us on the web, on X, on LinkedIn, and again, the YouTube channel, which is a really terrific resource. So let me open it up and ask if there are any questions from anyone. We can probably take down the slides. There we go. Any questions, comments from anybody? Stephanie or Sue, would you like to say anything more from your perspective at CDC?
This is Stephanie. Nothing from me. It's always great to actually hear an overview, even for me, just, a little refresher. So I appreciate it. And I'm excited for the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you. And Mike, I see you just joined. Welcome. We're just wrapping up our orientation and overview. We're excited to hear from you as well in just a little bit. And Gila, I see you're on from NCI. Would you like to say anything from NCI's perspective?
Just so glad to have you doing this, Stephanie. It was a great overview, and yeah, appreciate your leadership here. It's been great. Thank you.
Thanks, Gila. We love our NCI friends. We're very fortunate. I think that's one of the unique aspects of this network, to have engagement from both CDC and NCI and have an opportunity to really hear from them regularly on priorities and things that are changing in the field, and to hear about new opportunities for funding and programs that CDC and NCI are supporting. So yeah, it's an unusual opportunity that we're very fortunate to be able to take advantage of through this network. Any other questions or comments? Hi, Mike.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Sorry, I had a conflict at 11 a.m. So it sounds like I missed the orientation. I was hoping I
That's
would
okay. We
catch.
recorded it.
Okay, great. Well, I'll look forward to watching it, and I look forward to catching up with you guys and connecting this afternoon.
That sounds great. Okay, well, if there aren't any other questions or comments, I think we can wrap up the orientation and give folks, 20 minutes or so before we start the main session. So go grab your coffee or your lunch or whatever, and we'll see you at 12.